Oh, it is recorded. It has started.
Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, Rook. You're listening to the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. Take a lap.
Clap it up, boys. Clap it up.
Folkster, we're in the meat and potatoes of nothing, the offseason still.
Yes.
So, nothing's really happening. We do have some things to talk about in this episode, though. If you were with us last week, and before I get to that, you can chirp us at BarnChirpers Pod on the Instagram. Tell us that we have great takes. Tell us that we have terrible takes. Tell us we missed something. Tell us that we're completely full of it. Either way, we love to talk S with you at BarnChirpers Pod on the Instagram. Of course, you can find us on all streaming platforms, your Spotify's, your Apple iTunes, your iHeartRadios, your Kazams, your Shazams, your Alakazam, whatever. Anywhere you find podcasts, you can find us at the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. If you could be so kind as to give us a 5-star, a like, a review, just so you can say, hey, cool, this is great. Something like that, so we can get to the top of hockey podcasts in the world. Shout out to the Norfolk Admirals, yours and ours. We would love to be a part of their team so they can be part of our team, and you can all be a part of the team by liking, following, sharing the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast with a friend, with a foe, with a family member, with a teammate, whatever the case. You're on a beer league, we'd love to talk to you about it. All things involving hockey. So that's the spiel. You know the drill. Justin, take it away.
So first of all, if you're watching this on YouTube, you may have noticed that we have a guest third lineman. This is my cat Lola, and you may hear her because for some reason today she's very vocal. So take that as you will.
We lost a couple of teammates today, so it's just the two of us. We're a couple of men down, but we're going to make this happen because today we get to talk about the C's of the NHL. If you weren't with us last week, we did a little would you rather and an over under with Anaheim, Boston, Buffalo, and Arizona. And we had a great time. It was supposed to be a tight episode, but we went over an hour. So who knows what's going to happen today? We're talking about the C's. We're talking about Calgary. We're talking about Carolina. We're talking about Chicago, and we're talking about Colorado, baby.
And I mean, this is an exciting 4 teams because there's been some changes here on all 4 of them, some for the positive, some for actually, I don't think any of them for the negative. It's going to be an interesting.
Yeah. I don't think any negative. I wouldn't say negative on any of them, truly.
Not any of these 4 teams, but I do think that we're looking at some cusp teams here, like that teams that could be going one direction and some teams that are clearly going to go the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, call me Harry Styles because listen, this whole league seems to be flip-flopping a little bit. So that's going to be fun to watch and fun to see. So I guess with that, Justin, we don't have any cool intro music or anything. We should have some intro music for this, like something cool, like ominous and whatnot. But we don't. But that's okay. So let's talk about the Calgary Flames. And before we get into our actual GM questions, again, if you weren't with us last week, we're going to be asking each other, would you rather, and an over-under question, as if we are the general manager of that team that we're talking about. So before we get into that, just a little bit, and that's kind of cool music. That's cool and ominous. I'm into that. Just for reference, Justin and the listeners, the Calgary Flames last year missed the playoffs, as we know. They just missed out, but they finished with 38 wins, 27 losses, 17 overtime losses, 93 points. That left them, fifth place in the Pacific. So they did just miss out. But again, technically, we're talking about the three teams that were underneath them: San Jose, Vancouver, and Anaheim. So,
is that
you might as well just call them last.
You
might as well just call them last in the Pacific. So, I don't remember who went first last week. So, do you have something on your mind that you want to start with, or what do you got going on?
So I feel bad because I feel like a lot of my questions are goalie related, but I mean,
No, that's all right.
that's the way the league goes too. Like you catch a hot goalie and you go all the way. 2 seasons ago, Markstrom has a tremendous season. I feel like every other day he's pitching a shutout. Last season really came down to earth. Did he or did he not? If you're Jay, if you are the Calgary Flames, and you've got the changes going on, would you rather have Markstrom return to form from 2 years ago, or would you rather have just the rest of the team perform the way they should, and Markstrom is just an average goalie?
What's funny is I was going to ask you something very similar to this question, so that's funny. I love that, which explains why we're such friends. We think on the same lines. So okay, would I rather have Jacob Markstrom return to his amazing season he had 2 years ago, where he got like 9 shutouts or something like that, whatever it was insane. 9 shutouts, which was crazy. Or just have the team play like they should. I'm gonna go with the team playing the way that they should, because again, we know, and we've talked about ad nauseum, you need a goaltender to keep you in tight games, right? 100%. But to that point, last year there was the Calgary Flames. I don't believe they set a record, but they had the most overtime losses by 1 goal. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. They had the most 1 and 2 goal games that they lost.
Okay, got you.
They hit the pipe. I wish I had that stat in front of me, but it was like somewhere around 100 some, like hitting the post. So like they just couldn't score, right? So Markstrom, while he struggled last year, he was still a decent goaltender. It was just a little bit, removed from that amazing season he had, right? It was a shock. So, but I'm going with the team needs to just be the good team that they were and that we think that they are. If they do that, then as long as Markstrom is decent at best, they'll win, truly. So I'm going to go with the team performing the way they should.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, because for as down of a year as Markstrom had, he just has to be base level Markstrom through the regular season. And if he can, we saw it this last season with Bob, if he can turn it on at the playoffs, that's all you need.
Yeah,
like you got to get there. And if he can be hot in the playoffs, suddenly the Flames could be looking at the cup. So I think I
truly
agree with you.
just have to get there. Really, I mean, honestly, it's great, and we talk about a lot of amazing goaltenders and whatnot. Your Vasilevskys, your Flowers back in the day, the way Ottinger played, all those things. But think about it, and while we gave Aiden Hill his props for sure, because he did play lights out in the playoffs, but really, like, he just was decent enough, to win a Stanley Cup. That's really all you need, is a decent goaltender that's going to stop the pucks that he's supposed to stop. You don't need, quote unquote, a goaltender to fall on his head and make Dominik Hasek saves every single shot. You don't need that. You just need a goaltender to stop the pucks he's supposed to stop and have a team that's going to score goals. That's it. So
I dig it.
So with that said, Justin, I'm going to give you your your only over-under. And I will preface this, we kind of touched on it at the beginning. Calgary finished 9th in the Western Conference, just missing out on the playoffs, as we said. So, again, they had 93 points, which ended up being 2 points out of that last wild card spot. Okay, so one win out from making the playoffs. So, over-under, Justin, Calgary 8th seed in the Western Conference.
Ooh, there's so much contingent here.
I know, right? That's why it's like it's just that little dangle. Just that little dangle. Like, what are you going with?
So I'm gonna go over, because that talent can't be down for a second straight year, right? Like they have the talent. There's no reason they should have missed the playoffs this year. And if a couple things go right, like you mentioned, so many 1 and 2 goal games, a couple things go right, and suddenly you're talking about the Flames are in the playoffs now. What do they get done there? That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. I mean, really looking at last year's stats, if they had 3 wins, they would have tied Seattle.
Right. So that's
3 wins in an overtime technically, but anyway.
They were close enough to where it was a disappointment for people like you and I who had high hopes for them, but
I called them to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't a total wash for their season. So yeah, I'm going over the 8th seed. Maybe technically they might still be a wild card team, but I think they get in there this year.
Okay, are you gonna pick an actual slot?
Oh,
this bonus points.
Okay, we'll call this a bonus. All right. So what is it? There's the 3 divisions and then 3 wild card or
2
wild cards.
Yep. So the top 3 from each division and then 2 wild cards. I'm gonna go
safe. I'm gonna go. They get wild card 1. They get the 7th seed.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah, I personally, I think they miss out again. I think I'm going under. I think they end up in 10th place in the West. Yeah, I mean, obviously time will tell. Again, a lot of things. New coach. How's the team going to go? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that depend on it, but I don't think. They lost guys, so I think they finished 10th in the Western Conference, personally, but we'll see.
So, well, that leads me to my question, because one of the major things you feel like happened to them this year, they made the big trade. They lose Tkachuk, but in return, they get Huberdeau. Huberdeau, Joe, in case you weren't sure, played 79 games. What do we got here? 15 goals, 40 assists. So he was no slouch on the assist situation for 55 points and a
biggest drop off in history.
Yeah, a +2. So that's a huge drop off. So you know where I'm going here. 55 points for Huberdeau, over or under next season, Joe?
Woof. We literally thought the same things here. It's going to be interesting as we go on to the other teams. I do think he's going to get more, because allegedly there was tension between him and Sutter wouldn't let him play his game. So I do think he is going to have more than 55. I'm going to say over, and I'm going to say 88 points.
Okay. So like it's still. It's infinitely better than 55.
Yeah. Again, I think that was all the allegations, the rumor and innuendo, if you will, that he and Sutter didn't get along. Sutter didn't let him play his game, so obviously there's frustration there, and then just frustration in the team in general of, man, we can't win, we just can't win, we can't hit the net. You know what I mean? So I do think he'll have a better season. Like I said, over, and I'm going to say 82. So, well, this is kind of the same question for Would You Rather that you asked me, but it is different in a sense. But we're molding both our guys together here, Justin. So,
okay,
we're going to go with it. Would you rather Jacob Markstrom returns to his top tier form, okay, that we had 2 years ago, 9 shutouts, 30 wins, etc., but Huberdeau still sucks? Or Huberdeau goes back to his top tier. He scores well over 100 points again, just lighting the lamp on fire. But Markstrom now sucks. Can't seem to get a win, letting beach balls in. just a terrible performance, has the worst season he's ever had.
Okay, so these are more different than they may sound. I'm gonna take Markstrom has the good year because I feel like you can get the production from elsewhere. You only have one Markstrom.
That's fair.
Vladar is their backup, right? Or at least he was
Vladar
last season.
There's a kid too, but he doesn't matter.
Right. So like that, I don't mean to disparage Vladar, but like it's a drop off. He's probably not going to be the guy. So you do have other guys who underperformed last season that could pick up their production. And I would much rather not, if I'm the Flames, I'd much rather play tight games with a good goalie where it could go either way than playing chase mode when we already had a down season last year. So Markstrom, give me a good season from Markstrom.
I agree. Yeah. Same thing. I'd rather take a good Markstrom season. Like obviously we dealt with it last year. Huberdeau sucked. So we kind of just assume he's going to suck again this year. And be a waste of money. But so cool. All right, well that was the Calgary Flames. Moving on to the technically second best team in the league last year, the Carolina Hurricanes. Our neighbors to the south.
That's right.
I know it's a little bit sour still, but we're technically in a new season now, so hopefully we can let it ride a little bit here. So give it to me. What do you got? I imagine we're gonna have the same questions again.
All right. Well, I'll start with the over under, and I'm going to go simple as well here. Last year, the Carolina Hurricanes got to the Eastern Conference Finals and got murdered.
Naturally, as they do.
So, over or under Eastern Conference Finals for the Carolina Hurricanes this year?
Oh boy. Well, I was going to say, we didn't really establish the rules on over under. Can I go push? Can I say same? I don't think it works like that. You know what? It would be hilarious. I'm just going to go ahead and go under. I'm going to go first round exit.
Ooh.
First round exit. Like, because I mean, truly, like, and I'll have more to say when I get to your questions because it plays into this, but they haven't brought anybody in, really. Michael Bunting, okay. Like, Svetch is coming off of an ACL tear, so we don't know what kind of player he's going to be. Teravainen is allegedly on the trading block. Like,
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got young guys like Fost and Kotkaniemi. Those guys are fun. Martinook stepped up in the playoffs, but he's not normally scoring goals like crazy. You know what I mean? So Seth Jarvis is like another good one. They brought in Brendan Lemieux. Okay. So like, there's not really guys to get. Okay, they did sign Orlov. He is my guy. But again, he's a defenseman. Like you know what I mean? He's not going to put up the majority of your points. And they still have Brett Burns, yada, yada, yada. But they don't have, like, they signed Sebastian Aho to an 8-year, $9.75 million contract, a guy who's never even gotten close to 100 points. They don't have anybody, okay? I'm standing by this, even though I'm going to give them their props in a little bit. Like, they don't have anybody. So I'm going first round exit.
You know, I love to hear that.
Like, I love Rod the Bod, but get out of here. Games. So I'm going to hit you with your would you rather. Okay, so now that we know Boston has, they had their first round exit. They had the best season in NHL history, and then they got first round bounced. A lot of guys left, right? So we don't really know exactly how Boston is going to shape out. So the point of that being is that Carolina is kind of pigeonholed to potentially be the next President's Trophy winner because they were right there, right? They were next in line essentially. So Justin, would you rather, as the Carolina Hurricanes, win the President's Trophy, but you lose once again in the Eastern Conference Finals, just like you always do every single year, or win the President's Trophy, but you lose in the Stanley Cup Finals?
I think I got to go Stanley Cup Finals, because if you're Carolina, the door's starting to close, right? Kind of like what you were just talking about. The door's kind of closing. That this isn't a squad that spends a lot of money.
They don't, yeah. And I mean, for reference, they're 0-12 in Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. So you just you gotta get there, and with this squad, you gotta get there at least, and go, hey, yeah, we can actually win that one round. It doesn't end there for Florida didn't look great in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, but they made the Stanley Cup or not the playoffs, the finals rather.
Yes. Yeah,
but you can't take that away from them. That run cannot be taken away from them. Sure. They were Stanley Cup finalists, and one of the hardest trophies in sports to win.
Yes.
Being the second best team is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, obviously you want to lift the cup, but if you can't, then you want to be playing for it.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think to piggyback on that, you got to see some growth.
Mm-hmm.
The same way we're going to talk about Toronto when we get there towards the end of the list. Like, you got to see some growth, right? So, yeah, Carolina with this squad, this core continues to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and blow it. So, not only that, swept. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals and they are swept. So, you got to see some growth. More than just winning one game, too. By the way, boys, you got to get to that next level. So, I agree with you on that.
So, my would you rather was pretty similar to yours. So, like, I've been mulling it over.
So we're thinking the same things here. Maybe it's easy pickings, but either way.
I'm trying to think of like a way to diss them because they beat my boys. But it's much too similar. I feel like I want to ask something about Aho. All right. Yeah. So would you rather, if you're Carolina, would you rather Burnsy is your leader, as he's been, like, he's leading from the blue line, or would you rather Aho finally takes that step up and breaks through the 100-point barrier?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather Sebastian Aho, whatever, break through that 100-point barrier, because, again, paying him $9.75 million a year for the next 8 years. And the most points he's gotten in a season was his third season. He got 83. So, like, he's never hit 40 goals. He's never hit 100 points. You're the first line center.
Yeah.
And again, yes, we've talked about Bergeron last week. Just because you're the first line center doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to necessarily be the superstar guy. You don't have to be the guy that scores the most points, the most goals. But, buddy, you're the first line center and the highest paid Hurricane ever. Yeah. So do something. Truly.
For reference, last season, 75. So he missed 8 games, 75 games played. Not bad. 35 goals, 31 assists 36 goals, 31 assists for 67 points.
Yeah, you're not even a point per game guy.
Yeah. And
I know this because he was on my fantasy team. He would score he'd get 4 points and then do nothing for 2 weeks. Like, get out of here.
That's your guy.
And I mean, that's a whole other thing. Like, why are you paying this guy $9.75 million? No. God, no. Not even close to that. You're worth 2.5, bud. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Justin, quick little stat for you here. Last year, we've talked about goal differential a lot on this show, actually. So goal differential last year, Carolina was 8th in the goal differential, okay, with plus 53. Not too bad, right? So over under, Justin, Carolina 12th this year in goal differential. Knowing what we know, having had this conversation. Or knowing what we think we know in this conversation, technically.
I think under. I got a gut feeling like it's hard because I watched them beat my boys. I watched them play hockey last season and I discounted them several times. It's hard to like count them out until it actually happens. But I feel like they didn't make enough moves. Like there was talk that Tarasenko was going to land there, and I liked Aho, Tarasenko, Bunting as a line. I think that would be a solid line together. But that didn't come to fruition. They just don't make the moves. And to me, their production is going to come back some. And I see some of these younger teams kind of scooting past them, like my boys.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I'm gonna stick with what I started with 12th. I think they're gonna be 12th in the league in goal differential, and it's gonna be probably maybe plus 15, maybe 20. Like I really don't see them having that big of a goal differential this year because they play such. I mean, they're a very defensive team, which is fine, right? They just don't score a lot of goals in a league now that scores a lot of goals. Like you can get blown out pretty quick, as we saw in the playoffs too.
Yeah,
right? Like 6 goals all of a sudden happens in 10 minutes, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think they have the production to win a lot of games. Truly, that's not true. They're going to win games, but the goal differential I think is going to be somewhere around 12. I think so. We'll see what happens.
We will.
We will, won't we?
All right. So that's Carolina.
All right. Moving on to Chicago Blackhawks.
Boy.
Now, listen, we know our biases with the Chicago Blackhawks, and we despise them with all of the terrible things that have happened in that organization. Let's put on our GM hats here for a minute and pretend like we like this team and pretend like we actually want to see this team succeed.
Okay.
Ominous music.
Yeah, I'll pretend I don't hate these boys. Actually, I may end up going. Actually, never mind. That's not pertinent.
Okay.
I may be going to Chicago, but it's not pertinent. The Blackhawks aren't in town the weekend we're going. Okay.
You can go see the big silver. What is it? Like a bean, the silver bean.
Oh yeah, fun times. All right. I'll start with a simple one. They've got the generational player. They got him. So let's go over under simple. Let's keep it relatively low here. Over or under 40 points for Connor Bedard.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Justin. I was going to go a little more. I was going to go 70 over.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So that answers it. Like I'm going to say over. I think he gets 70. I think, some mashup of 30 goals, 40 assists. I think he'll fucking hit. Whoa, PG. Dang it. Wow. That was G's. There wasn't C's and K's. It was G's. I think he's going to get 30 goals in his first year. It's going to be a sight to see for sure. So I'm going to.
I hope for your sake, yes. But you know what? I'll keep my dirty comments out of it because it's nothing to do with the kid. It's got everything to do with my distaste for the place he was drafted to. So if he is even half of what he's supposed to be, I think your 70 is right on the money. So let's hope that that's the case.
It'll definitely. And I mean, listen, as much as we. Taking the hat off for a second, as much as we despise the Blackhawks organization, if they are good, or even just the fact that this kid is going to be playing for them, and we get enough eyes, old and new eyes, on watching the Blackhawks that can very well transfer into the league doing better.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
So, it's kind of like playing tug of war here. Like, do I want Chicago to be good? No. Do I want more eyes on the league so the league actually gets, I don't know, TV time?
Mhm.
Yes, I do want that. So, okay, Justin. So obviously we're talking about Connor Bedard, and these questions are pretty much going to be focused around him, I imagine,
Yep.
at least. So, because again, he is that generational player. So, I was really having a hard time figuring out this would you rather question because none of it really made sense in my head. So hopefully this does make sense though. Okay. So, all right. Would you rather have Connor Bedard become an instant superstar?
Damn it.
Brings in millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to the Chicago Blackhawks organization from merch, people coming to see him, whatever, meet and greets, just millions of dollars. Okay. And let's say he plays 20 seasons. Okay. All for the Blackhawks, and bringing over that time millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Right. But the squad never wins a Stanley Cup with him.
Mm.
Or Connor Bedard turns out that he isn't the guy. He isn't the guy that we thought he was going to be. And you spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars over 20 years trying to win a cup.
Mm.
So there's no cup here.
Right. So no cup for them regardless.
Either way, you're not winning a cup as the GM of the Chicago Blackhawks.
So I think that if again, using this scenario that we are the GM, I think I want Bedard to be the guy that we think he is, because like you mentioned before, it's good for the league. It's good for the squad, good for the league. And maybe it appeases Bettman so he doesn't try to do it again. Yeah,
at least for 20 years. He'll be
I
dead.
think,
Oh.
at least if he's producing, you can justify spending the money. Like it's not his fault they're not winning. He's going out there and doing the thing. It's almost, I hate to compare him to Corey's guy Lindros, but I feel like that's what they were doing, right? Like Lindros was supposed to be the guy. How many cups did he get?
I mean, I was gonna make the same comparison about Alex Ovechkin too.
Yeah,
I was gonna bring I mean, obviously he did finally win it.
Yeah,
but I mean, there was 10 plus years of millions upon millions of dollars being spent to get him, to win a Stanley Cup. So, yeah, I'm sorry I cut you off. Did you have anything else to say?
No, that was the.
I agree as well. Like, I'd rather, if I wasn't going to win a cup anyway. Also, I probably wouldn't be a GM for 20 years if I didn't win a cup. I would have you'd get fired at some point.
Yeah.
There's also, the option there of like, well, maybe we trade him, So
yeah.
But anyway, the story was he's played 20 years for the Blackhawks, he never won a cup. Well, yeah, like we both said, at least he's bringing in money, and that's, I mean, really what it's all about. Of course, we want to win a cup, but at least we're making money and not spending it. So I would go with superstar, but never win a cup as well.
So yet again, I got another Connor Bedard question.
Naturally, yeah.
Look, Bettman moved heaven and earth to make this happen.
He sure did.
All right. So if you're the Chicago Blackhawks GM, would you prefer that, or would you rather Connor Bedard slots right in and, as we said before, does 60 to 80 points, like really shows that he's their guy, but you miss the playoffs? Or he kind of has what I presented you before, like decent showing, 40 points, like a rookie season, but you guys eke into the playoffs and still don't get to the cup.
Ooh, that's a really good one, actually. Talking through it, the first option would be great. He has this outstanding rookie season, but then the bar is that high for him as well, and for the team. The second makes more sense. He's a rookie, has a pretty good season, still probably wins the Calder. You eke in, that's a big turnaround. I'm going to go with the second. He has a decent showing, whatever you said, 40-ish points. They eke into the playoffs and they lose. Like, that's still a major turnaround from the last couple of seasons. So I'm going with that because, yeah, the first is, I don't know if I'm looking at it from like a management psychology standpoint. Like, this kid's already got the most pressure on him ever, ever than any. I would say more than any rookie that was touted as a generational player. Ovi, Sid, McDavid, like, I think Connor Bedard is probably the most hyped up that I can ever remember in my 20-ish years, 20 plus years of watching hockey. You know what I mean? So they already got a lot of pressure on him.
Bettman is basically asking him to lift the sport, whereas everybody else just kind of had to lift their squads.
Yeah. Please revitalize the NHL because I've messed it up for 30 years, and I need you to fix it. Yeah, there's so much pressure on this kid. I'd rather go with the second because the first one, I mean, you just set the bar so high, you know? So yeah, for longevity, I'm going with the second. Okay, Justin. So because we basically already did the over-under with Bedard and his points, so I'm changing things up. Change them up. Shift change. So last year, Chicago finished second to last, so 31st in the league. Okay. So the lottery picks are 16 to 32, or excuse me, 15 to 30. 15 to 13, right? Back 15. Yeah. Okay. So over under Chicago, we'll just say this, over under Chicago, not a lottery pick.
Oh.
So this doesn't necessarily have a placing,
just not in the lottery.
They're the bottom half of the league or top half of the league, which could also still be the worst of the best.
Right. My inclination is that they're going to be a considerably better team this year. I don't know if that is just because the bar was so low last season.
It was pretty low.
I don't know who's out there. I don't keep a pulse on on the draft picks, like who's coming in next year. Is there a guy that we might rig the draft so the Blackhawks get 2 in a row? I don't think there's another guy out there like Bedard. So my inclination is that they play well enough to not be part of the lottery. So I'm going to go over. Yeah, I'm going to go with the over there. That's the inclination.
Yeah, I mean, my gut says that as well. I don't think that they're going to be on the bottom half. I mean, just real quick, they brought in Ryan Donato, our boy. They brought in Nick Foligno. They brought in Taylor Hall. They have Tyler Johnson, who's won a Stanley Cup with Colorado. They brought in Corey Perry. They have Seth Jones. They got guys that have won.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, those guys in a locker room are not going to be like, oh, ho-hum. Yeah, we lost again tonight. Like, they're going to light a fire in these kids, I think. So my only issue, and this is a conversation for another time, they only have Peter Mrazek listed as the goaltenders right now.
Uh-oh.
So
better do something.
That could be a problem. But that's a conversation for another day. I think that wraps up our talk on the Chicago Blackhawks. Now we can take our GM hats off and say, I hate you, Chicago.
Just lose every game, please.
Just the management team, not the city, not any of the players, just the management of the Chicago Blackhawks. And we don't need to go into that anymore because we already all know. Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champions in 2021, 2022. Justin, and then they get bounced by our boys, Seattle Kraken, in the first round the next year. So, I love the ominous music.
I'm looking up a quick stat for my over-under. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Do you want me to go then?
Sure.
Okay, well, maybe I'm going to steal this for you. Last year, Justin, the Colorado Avalanche, they're in the Central Division, naturally, with the likes of Dallas and Minnesota, Winnipeg, Nashville, St. Louis, Arizona, and Chicago. We talked about that last week. They finished first in the Central last year with 109 points, eking out Dallas in the last game of the year. So they won the Central. So Justin, over, under, Colorado first in the Central this year.
All right. So who has made enough moves to surpass them is the question, right? Like, who's the better team? Yeah, obviously, Dallas is still right there.
Yep.
Did Colorado's made some moves, and we'll get to that in a second. I feel like Dallas has made more moves, haven't they? And Ottinger was otherworldly.
Yeah. I mean, in that in that division, Arizona has made the most moves.
Yeah.
But we talked about that last week. We're not necessarily expecting them to jump 6 spots. But Dallas has made some moves. Minnesota made some moves. Nashville has made some moves.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, contender wise, the teams that have gotten better for sure are Dallas and Minnesota and Nashville. So
I feel like it's got to be Dallas this year. Like, so I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say that Dallas overtakes them this year. I feel like they made enough moves to where Colorado will still be in the fight. I feel like that's the conversation though all season is Colorado and Dallas. It's back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, and just kind of looking at Colorado's squad, I mean, really the only guys that have come in are Ross Colton from Tampa Bay and Jonathan Drouin from is he Canadian, right? Yeah, Montreal. So like they haven't really added any pieces, and as we know, Gabe Landeskog is out again all year. We don't know what the status is of Valery Nichushkin. He got suspended in the playoffs last year because of I don't know who knows exactly what happened with him. So like, they don't really. Who do they have? Are they gonna? I mean, they got Cale Makar, of course, but is he gonna lead the whole team to victory every single night? That's a lot for a defenseman, even if he is an offensive defenseman. We know last year that they, ended up winning the Central, like we just talked about, with essentially depth guys. Like they didn't really have. Besides McKinnon, he was out too. He was injured some of the year. So they made it happen. But, I don't know. Can you do that 2 years in a row? I'm kind of going with you. I'm going that they're probably going to they might end up at the bottom of the Central in the sense of like 4th in the Central. It's very possible.
Yeah, still in the hunt, but definitely not at the top. So I can't help but notice, and this brings me right to my question. There was one guy that you did not mention that the Colorado Avalanche secured this season. My man, Miles Wood.
Oh, I did forget about him.
But maybe rightfully so. I'm going to read you some stats here. So in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, Miles Wood, 91 penalty minutes in 63 games, 57 penalty minutes in 68 games, 29 penalty minutes in 55 games, 4 penalty minutes in 3 games. Last season, 76 penalty minutes in 76 games. That's a penalty minute a game. And some of the most crucial ones were in the playoffs. So, Joe, next season for the Colorado Avalanche, my man Miles Wood, over under 76 penalty minutes.
Hey, he got 13 goals also.
He had a good season. Like I was bummed to see him go, but like, this is what he did.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, man. Well, I think the toughness has moved back over to the East again. So not that the West isn't tough, but I think most of the tough guys are in the East now again this year. So I don't think he's really going to have to. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say your boy Miles is going to go 52 penalty minutes this year.
Yeah, here's hoping.
He's going to have a turnaround season, 20 goals, 17 assists, whatever that math ends up being, 37 points, and only 52 penalty minutes.
And hopefully none of those are stupid ones like the ones he was getting in the playoffs, like just really dumb playoffs.
You know what I mean? Like just a blatant trip, blatant interference. We don't need any of that. All right. So as we talked about, and we know Gabriel Landeskog is going to be out again, another full year. So 2 full years, Justin.
Woof.
That he's going to sit out of the Colorado Avalanche lineup after winning the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. So would you rather, Justin, Gabriel Landeskog, let's say he's not injured, he comes back and he plays this whole season, right? So Landeskog comes back, plays the whole season, but Colorado misses the playoffs entirely, or Landeskog doesn't play and you still miss the playoffs anyway.
This is going to sound wild, but give me Landeskog not playing. If there's a chance that he can take a full season and fully recover and come back next season good to go, I'd much rather that. If we're not making the playoffs either way, I'd rather not risk, because if he goes out there and hurts himself again, then we lose him for a whole nother season, or worse, forever. Like he has to step away from the game. Yeah, I'd much rather if I know I'm not making the playoffs. Sorry, Landy. Do not lace him up. Do not get on this ice. We'll see you next season.
Yeah, I agree. And I realize the question is kind of redundant because you're missing the playoffs anyway. But I thought of this question in the sense of like pride as well, and what the Colorado Avalanche actually has to offer and puts on the ice. If Landy does come back and he's able to play the full season, but you guys are just terrible, I feel like that rings more bells of, wow, this organization is in a lot of trouble after winning a Stanley Cup. More so than if obviously you don't have your best player and you still struggle and miss the playoffs, right? I mean, I guess it's kind of a just keeping your eyes closed, I suppose, type of thing. If you're like, oh, we just need Landy back, you know what I mean? And if that scenario shook out, and then you'd be like, oh, dang, I guess we need to have some work to do. So I get all of that. But yeah, I to your point, he still very well could be done with his career. Truly. Yeah. It was a very bad injury. So, but I agree with you. Like, why risk having him come back too early and then you literally lose him forever? Plus he's on an LTIR right now. So I believe, not that he's not getting paid, but I believe that doesn't count to his contract. I don't think. I'd have to look into that. If you know, chirp us at BarnChirpers Pod. Excuse me. So I think when he does actually come back, like he'll still have his contract years that they'll have him. I think. Yeah. So if you know, at BarnChirpers Pod, thanks.
So that brings me to my would you rather. All right. So you mentioned before McKinnon the last 2 seasons. I've had him on, he's been my number 1 pick in fantasy hockey. So you can't let go of him. He's McKinnon. But he's missed a lot of games over the last 2 seasons, a little bit less. I'd have to actually look at the numbers, a little bit less, if I recall correctly, this season. So,
yeah, Joe. He played, I'll tell you real quick, 71, sure. 71, I'm going backwards, 71, 65, 48. Those are the last 3 seasons.
Okay, so yeah, so he played a couple more games. Joe, would you rather have an entire season with Nate McKinnon this year, but you repeat and lose in the first round, Or would you rather lose him for half the season, you eke into the playoffs, but get to the Western Conference Finals?
Ooh.
No cup either way.
Yeah, no cup either way. I feel like I'm going with the second one because, again, we talked about progression earlier. Like, that's progression. Obviously, technically it's a step back because you won the cup before and now you're trying to get there again and you lose in the Western Conference Finals. But it is progression from getting bounced by a rookie team. Even we love our Kraken, but you got bounced by a rookie team the year that you're defending champs, So that's progression to me. So I'm going with the second. You lose your big dog or your second big dog, but hey, we haven't had our dogs in the fight for 2 years now, so whatever, they figured it out. So yeah, I'm going with the second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my inclination too. All the reasons you mentioned. You want to see the team going forward, and that probably going into next season means a lot more. Hey, we got this far without McKinnon half of the year. Let's have everybody.
We got this far without our top two dogs.
So let's do it. Let's do the whole thing next year. So yeah, I think I agree with you.
It is interesting that this is a whole other conversation, but since we're on Colorado, I mean, it is interesting how they were able to hang around all year last year without really anybody.
Yeah,
truly. And then they end up making a push towards the end. Obviously, the other teams had help in that by losing key games and whatnot. But it is interesting that they were able to win the Central and get in when things looked very bleak all year. So
absolutely.
Something about the system there for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. So that wraps up our this segment this week. Hopefully, again, if this is your first time listening to that, you enjoyed it. Next week, we get to cover the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Dallas Stars, Detroit Red Wings, and Edmonton Oilers.
Okay, that'll be a fun one.
That's going to be a fun show.
Yes.
Not that this wasn't, but that's going to be really fun to talk about when we do Would You Rather and Over Under next week. Again, you can listen to all of our past episodes and that episode on all streaming platforms. BarnChirpers podcast, hockey podcast, at BarnChirpers pod. Chirp us, follow us, like us, share us with all your friends and family. 5 stars, reviews. Go Norfolk Admirals. Follow them. We want to be on their team. That's the cheap plug here in the middle. Next.
So we're a man down here. We got to kill off some penalty.
Kill them. Let's go.
Big news broke this week. We talked a good couple weeks back. The news came out that EK wanted out of San Jose, and we lit him up on this show. We lit him up. Hey man, do the thing. He signed the contract. He gets his way. Gets traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which that'll be in a couple episodes here, Joe. But EK to Pittsburgh. Initial thoughts?
I mean, so the initial thoughts, just like I mentioned in that episode where we talked about it, I get that you want to win, and I get that you want to be competitive. You want to play for a competitive team, but man, you really by signing that big contract and wanting to demanding basically to get out is really kind of sticking it to the Sharks.
Yeah.
I mean? But I mean, Kyle Dubas came in as GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he made it work.
He sure did.
He somehow made it work. And so while I do look at EK as kind of a jerk, right? But I feel like San Jose didn't get totally hosed in this trade. While they did take on some not great contracts by getting Mikael Granlund and Jan Ruda and Mike Hoffman. But, and they got a 24 first-round draft pick. Okay. So that haul, all right. But those 4 things, they could potentially flip at the deadline for more assets.
Yeah.
Like those 3 guys, Granlund, Ruda, and Hoffman, are all really solid players that the Sharks, essentially only have to pay right now for. And I don't really know if anyone's retaining any salary. I didn't look into that, but those pieces can all be flipped at the deadline for other assets while the Sharks rebuild now.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, you're finally getting, okay, yeah, we know Karlsson won the Norris. We've talked about that ad nauseum now at this point. But he wanted out. So, that's kind of a toxic environment, I think, to be. Knowing this guy wants out, that's just, that's not, you don't want to be around that. It's just bad juju on your squad, in your locker room, right? Even if he is a nice guy, I don't know him. I never had lunch with him. He might be a nice guy, but that's still a toxic environment to be in. So now you have that clear from your locker room. These young guys can now learn, and this is a rebuild. This is a full-on rebuild now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, again, like I said, you can flip all of these at the deadline or before for assets. And Anthony Duclair also, you could potentially easily flip him for more assets too, to really get more picks or some younger guys in the system for your rebuild. And then Montreal, I mean, they were kind of just the money people, right? Yeah. I think they retained, I forget how much they retained, truly. I should have looked into that. But essentially, San Jose got all but 1.1 million off of Karlsson's deal, off of their salary cap. So that's great.
Yeah. So here's what I found on that. This is from NHL.com. Karlsson is signed through the 26-27 season, in his contract an average annual of 11.5. San Jose is retaining 1.5 of his salary yearly.
That's nothing.
Yeah. Pitlick is signed through the 23-24, and his contract carries an average annual of 1.1. Hamaliuk, entry-level contract runs through the 23-24 and carries an average of $789,000.
So, San Jose just went, Pitlick went to Pittsburgh. But, San Jose went from $11.5 million to what?
I guess it depends on what those players.
Yeah, Ruda, but either way, they got some money now, which is great. Which is great. So
yes,
I think honestly everybody wins in this trade. Truly, obviously I think you would say that Pittsburgh definitely wins because they get Karlsson, but I don't think San Jose loses, and I don't think Montreal loses either, because both squads are very young teams that have assets now that they can flip.
Yes.
Yep. And Casey DeSmith is a pretty good goaltender too. So depending on who Montreal decides that they want to go with, whether it's Montalban, Allen, DeSmith, they got options in Montreal too. So I think this is a solid trade all around.
I wholeheartedly, because initially you got to get over the shock of it's the Pens, and the Pens have made moves this season. And my guy Gravy went there, and it's it's the last place I wanted to see him go.
For sure, I don't want to see Pittsburgh get better. I don't want to see that.
But there was nothing San Jose was going to get that was going to suddenly make them a playoff team, right? Like you said, at least with guys like Granlund, Ruda, and Hoffman, you have guys that are going to go be on the ice, and. Yep. Like you said, that you can flip them at the deadline if you guys are probably where you're going to be near the bottom. But I think, to your point, getting Karlsson out of there was the biggest thing. You got him out of there, and now you have guys that actually want to play hockey for the San Jose Sharks. That is critically important for where they are as a franchise right now. You need guys that want to play in the teal. You need guys that want to be on the ice for you. I think once I can get over the sticker shock the shock of, man, we're gonna have to see Karlsson a bunch this season. I think this works out for everybody.
And again, we'll get to San Jose. We'll get to Pittsburgh when we get to talking about over-unders and stuff. But who's to say he's going to put up 100 points again?
Right.
Who's to say that? So he might totally suck this year. You never know. You never know. And I do just want to touch on it real quick. While San Jose is a young squad, but Logan Couture committed to the Sharks after the Karlsson trade. So they're keeping Couture. They got Anthony Duclair. Like I said, they brought in Granlund with that trade. Thomas Hertl is solid. Mike Hoffman. Oscar Lindblom is a young guy that's upcoming. They just got Zadina from Detroit. They got Zetterlund. That was your guy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From New Jersey. Yeah.
That was the Timo Meier trade.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. Again, now they got Jan Ruda on the back end. Ferraro, I had him on fantasy for a while last year. He's not going to get you a lot of points, but he's a solid defender. Gets you a lot of hits. He's a physical guy. Mark Eduardo Vlasic on the back end. So they got pieces, honestly, in San Jose. So maybe, again, I'm not seeing San Jose like totally turning it around and making a playoff push now, but they very well could be, not in the bottom quarter of the West now. And they have two pretty solid goaltenders, Blackwood and Kakkonen. Those are pretty serviceable goaltenders. So we'll see what happens. I'm actually, now that we're talking about it, looking at it, like I'm kind of excited for the Sharks season. I wish I could actually watch more games.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
To be fair, it is West Coast, and I'm not staying up till 10:30 to watch a game.
That's true too. But this wasn't the only move. Dumba, I think, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago? We talked about like remaining free agents.
Yeah.
And look, man, I gotta tip my hat. I love this move for the Coyotes. Again, is he a guy that gets them to the playoffs? Is he a guy? No. But like it shows that they want to put a quality team on the ice.
For once, Justin, like seriously, maybe going back to like the Shane Doan days, you could probably say that about the Yotes, but for once in a very long time. Sorry, I know I cut you off. I feel like you had another comment, but I just had to say that.
No, I just it's exciting to me because we've spent the entirety of this program's existence cutting down the Coyotes. Yep. And it's like, clearly we can't take any credit for that, but like the fact that they're trying means a lot because they're one of those clubs, just like Nashville last year when we went to go see them. It's like, okay, I get it. I still don't get why the Arizona Coyotes exist, and to see them actually trying to put a quality product out there on the ice means, okay, so like something is going on there. Maybe they aren't great, but it'll be a decent club and they're actually trying. So let's see what happens going forward. And do you want to tag on the
we can. Yeah. But also I was going to say, like, so now you have two all-star defensemen on your team. Man. You have, maybe you put them together. Maybe I'd say probably not. They're both a right shot. So second line, first line, second line, 1A defensemen. Like that might be the first time in their history that they have, you know what I mean? Like two top defensemen, you know what I mean? So that's great. I love that they're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
They're at least doing something. And they're also doing something in real estate too, because allegedly the owner of the Arizona Coyotes has purchased land in the Mesa, Arizona area. Arizona Coyotes owner Alex Morello, sorry if I butcher that, is interested in purchasing land for a new arena in Mesa, the team said in a statement. So we'll see what happens. I guess he's put out a handful of bids on land that would essentially build, a Coyotes new arena. Whether I think the biggest thing that got shot down was that they were trying to make it a massive arena, sport complex, apartment buildings, all this stuff. But anyway, allegedly he's put in bids to have some land in Mesa to build the new arena that could be if it happened, essentially in theory, it would be ready by 26-27 season.
Okay.
So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm hopeful. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm looking for it to fail. I am very curious to see how it plays out, though, for the Arizona Coyotes, because, again, like we talked about with this very segment, bringing in Dumba and bringing in Dursey, and bringing in all the other guys that they've brought in now just this offseason, there's some moves being made. So yeah. I'm at the very least curious to see what happens.
Cautiously optimistic because, I'd hate to see that. I love those Kachina sweaters and I'd hate to see them go away. But like I have been actively rooting against the Coyotes for years now.
Yes.
So, and it's nothing to do with the players on the ice. It's everything to do with the league. So I would love to see something positive happen out there in the desert and show me a reason why this team is still there. And
give me something.
Give me something, Joe. That's all I need. So
give me something.
It's a good start. I can't complain. All right. So we got a couple other quick news hits. Maybe we get on the penalty kill here before we get off the ice. What do you think?
The time's running out. We got to kill this off.
So you got it up in front of you?
I do, yeah. So we'll go with our boy, Martin Jones, signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs for 1 year, $875K.
I don't think first of all, the fact it bums me out that he's leaving Seattle.
It bums me out too because he is a solid backup goaltender. Like,
he was such a great 1A.
I had him last year on fantasy. I was trying to bring it up. I swear he won me like 25 games last year. He was solid, especially when Grubauer was struggling.
Yeah,
I had a solid goaltender to have.
I had him early in the season too, and then he went through this where he got lit up for 8 goals, and I was like, well, I can't have that, and I dropped him. And I
did have that a couple of times actually,
but then you scooped him up, and he picked right back up. So I wonder. I don't think there's been any official news on this, but it looks like Mustache Matt Murray might be on the way out. Like, I think he might be done. Like, he may have to hang him up.
Yeah, I mean, again, they did put him on LTIR. So, yeah, I mean, hey, he had a good career, won 2 cups.
Yeah,
right off in the distance, man. Whatever.
Yep. So Martin Jones is a Leaf. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing with that, like, he could very well beat out Sammy for the top job.
Absolutely.
Which is a great thing for Sammy to actually pick his game up and not be the guy that I chirped him about being in the playoffs, kind of being ho-hum, like, I'm not good enough. Hey, I'm a master all-star. Like, he's so back and forth. Like, this is going to be a great test for him to step it up. And guess what? If you don't step it up, old boy Joey Wall back down in the Marlies could take your job too. So
easily.
I really like this move by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm again curiously optimistic how they're going to get out from under a 13.256 450 over cap hit right now. Yeah, they're at 96.7 million with their cap hit currently, and then they got to get at 83.5 to hit a cap. So, and they still have to sign Willie Nylander. So,
well, he's probably gone. I mean,
they signed all these guys, and now they don't know what they're gonna do. They're just like taking loans to pay people, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I love this move though for Martin Jones. I mean, I hate to see him leave the Kraken because obviously I'd rather have the Kraken have a solid number 2 goaltender, but I think I hope he does well in Toronto because we know goalies go there to die. So
yes,
we hope that's not the case. So, yeah, moving on. My boy, old Tommy Wilson for the Washington Capitals. He gets signed 8 years, $6.6 7 years, $6.5 million. This is great for the Capitals.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, the chirps from all over the place is like, oh, I guess they're not in a rebuild, blah, blah, blah. They're just keeping enough guys around for Ovi to break the record. Yeah, true. They essentially, told Ovi that we're going to still try to still be competitive so you can break the record, But this is good once Ovi's done. So Ovi's contract still has 4 years left. And they just extended Tom for 7. So when Ovi is gone, you're looking at the next guy because he's going to be he'll have been with the club for over 10 years. For 10 years at that point. So he'll probably get the C, and he's probably going to be the guy after Ovi leaves. So this is a smart move. Also, if Tom Wilson's not on your team, you hate him. But you wish he was on your team. He does so many things for the squad. And thankfully, he's fixed his game where he's not taking all these penalties anymore as well. He plays a lot smarter. So he's becoming even more of a dangerous weapon. Is he going to score 50 goals? Probably not, but he's going to get you clutch points. He's going to be physical, and you can depend on him. So this is great. This is great for the Caps. I mean, again, not expecting much from the Caps at this point. Truly. Right. Probably going to miss out on the playoffs for the next 3 to 5. But
hate to see it for you, but
what are you going to do? It's okay. It'll be fun to watch Ovi break the record. So
yeah. I mean, you said it so succinctly. If Tom Wilson's on your club, then you love the guy, but you hate him if he's not. I lived through that. Scott Stevens was that guy with the Devils. Everybody hated him, but man, like not me. That guy won me 3 cups.
Right.
So
exactly. Injuring people left and right.
Yeah, well, it was a different time, sir.
But yeah, no, I'm not mad at it. Like, I mean, I love the physicality of hockey. I hate to see that seemingly the game is going another way, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time because we've been here for an hour and 15 minutes as almost. So,
oops.
But no, it was a great episode. So again, next week we'll be talking about Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, and the Edmonton Oilers for Would You Rather, and an over-under still on this road to the preseason of the NHL 23-24 season. That's Justin. I'm Joe. We are the BarnChirpers at BarnChirpers Pod. Again, like, subscribe, share, 5-star, share it with anybody. BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. Shout out to Norfolk Admirals. We're trying to be on their team. Go like them as well. Tell them that we are awesome. And then with nothing else to say, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.
Clap it up. And end the recording.